Welcome, welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, it has been a couple of weeks. I've been crazy busy, but I am back still because I know something that some of you out there listening and watching don't know, and that is libertarianism is not just about the presidential candidacy every single 4 years. It's not only about that. It's about people all across this country trying to make a difference in their own communities, in their own states, in their own counties, in their own towns and cities. And they're trying to bring liberty to a lot of people on the local levels. And that's what the show is about. And Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live, I got my coffee because that's what I have to do. So my brand is still strong. I am very lucky today. I have with me two people from the great state of Pennsylvania. Yes, indeed. People who are rocking and rolling, trying to bring liberty to that state. The LP chair, Jenn Moore, and the elusive, but I got him today, Dr. Chuck Moulton. How are you guys?
Great. Thanks for having us, Larry.
Of course. But, you know, I want to talk about something here which sounds funny to me. And I mean this with respect, with love when I say this. But the Moulton Maneuver, that sounds like, you know, I'm watching Star Trek and all of a sudden the Klingons are attacking and they go use the Moulton Maneuver. Kirk did it 20 years ago or whatever. That's like when I hear that, I think about some kind of cool Star Trek thing that, you know, they're going to do to beat the Klingons or something. Tell me, please, what is this Moulton Maneuver?
Well, I will leave that to Chuck since that's his brainchild, but I will comment that the name is our executive director, Kevin Goggins' fault. He came up with that one, and it's almost as good as Star Trek. So
yes, that's what I'm saying. It's pretty cool. So maybe we should all use it. I love it. Right. So please, Dr. Chuck, please tell me.
So basically, we're exploiting a quirk in the Pennsylvania election law. And I was born in Pennsylvania, raised here, I've been involved with the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania since about 2003. And I've known about this quirk since then, but we haven't really organized much to deal with it. And the quirk is that in Pennsylvania, there are major parties, minor parties, and political bodies. The major parties are
major, minor, and political bodies.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
So the major parties are basically the Republicans and Democrats. You need at least 15% of registered voters. That's out of our reach. We're at, I don't know, about 1% of registered voters right now, something like that. Minor political parties need to achieve at least 2% of the top vote getter in the last statewide election. I think it's like a 2-year rolling period, statewide elections. And sometimes we have that, sometimes we're political bodies. Political bodies is basically any other entity that doesn't achieve that threshold. So the quirk is that the major party candidates nominate their candidates using a primary process. So they petition to get on the ballot in February and very early March. They have a primary in April or May. And that's how they select their candidates. Minor parties and political bodies select their candidates, nominate their candidates a different manner. We do it in convention, and our petitioning period and the period to file our paperwork, our deadline is different. Our deadline is August 1st.
So hold on, I want to touch this for a second. You have to walk down this road and express all types of different issues. And the reason why I bring this up is most Americans do not understand how complex this is, how difficult they make it for us. I hear all the time when I'm walking around, well, if you guys would have some candidates I could vote for, I hear that all the time. And when I tell them, do you know that your party, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, goes out of its way to keep us off the ballot so you can't vote for us? Do you know that your party literally goes to court to throw our people off the ballot? To make sure that we're not on the ballot so that you don't even have a choice. Your party, which you love so much, goes out of its way to make sure you don't have any choice. They use monopoly and oligarchic tactics to ensure that you have as little choice as possible. And then when I tell them that, they often don't believe me. They can't imagine that this system would exist. Then when I begin to show them and explain it, it blows them away. So that's one reason why I'm having you on, because you have to explain this to the average person. Major party, minor party, political body seems stupid to the average person. In fact, seems dumb to me too. I'm just saying. But we have to deal with this on a yearly basis. We're always in this world, and it makes it so hard to do this. Now, I know what someone else says. I'm sorry, I mean to preach, but I'm a little bit of preaching, and then I'll stop a little bit. The other thing that bugs me here is then people say, well, then you just have to go through it. Yeah, we can, but that takes time and money and energy that now we don't have to campaign. When the Democrats, Republicans are all campaigning, we're still trying to get access to the ballot so we can just be there to get a check mark from you. It is grossly unfair. And I just want the audience to understand what we go through. So thank you so much for the cool Moulton Maneuver. Please continue. My sermon is now over.
Larry, I think the main thing is the fact that the Moulton Maneuver itself is us, kind of capitalizing on one of the quirks of that system that allows us to have an advantage. We don't have very many, and that's what this is. So sorry to interrupt you, Chuck. Go ahead.
Right, exactly. We have many disadvantages compared to the major party candidates. So our petition requirements are higher than theirs, for example, and they can sue to get us off the ballot. We're not allowed to sue to get them off the ballot because only Republicans and Democrats can challenge other Republicans and Democrats in the primary. But the one thing we do have is our deadline is after theirs. And not only is our deadline after theirs, but our deadline is so far after theirs that we already know who their candidates are. And more importantly, we know who their candidates aren't. So what the Moulton Maneuver does is it looks for races where there's no Democrat and Republican that has filed for a local office. And you might be surprised that those exist. You would think any office out there someone would file for, but there are many, many municipalities throughout Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, another quirk of our system compared to other states is that all offices are partisan. There are no nonpartisan offices, and we elect some very low-level things. We elect, for example, auditor and constable, which are local positions. Auditors audit the books of the township supervisors, and constables are an elected official that helps enforce election law and assists with the now I forget what they're called, the municipal level courts.
Well, let me jump on this for a second too. You're giving me chances to preach, so I'm gonna do a little bit more preaching if I can, because you keep giving me chances. So the part you brought up now was the next piece was that so many people run unopposed. That isn't just Pennsylvania. That's all over the country. That happens in New York too. The amount of times we find that someone just runs unopposed because they gerrymander the districts to where, either the Republican or Democrat knows they can't win because they've gerrymandered district that's 7-1 Democrat or 8-1 Republican or whatever it is in any given county. They make it that way so that if you run, you're not going to win. So the only way you have somebody run is if they know they're doing it to set themselves up for another run, right? So I'll run, and we do it in New York City all the time. The Republican runs in New York City often to set them up for something else. The most recent one was our mayoral race a couple times. The last time there was a woman from Staten Island who ran, Malinakis. She had no chance of winning, but she got her profile up so high, she's now in Congress, right? So she does that type of thing. That's what we have in New York. Is that similar in Pennsylvania? It
is, but this is to an even greater degree because we're not talking about one person running unopposed. We're talking about no one running. So no one on the ballot.
No one running.
And if no one's running, then what usually happens, what they're used to happening, is no one runs, and then if no one runs and no one writes themselves in on election day, and you could win by write-in vote, one write-in vote for a lot of these offices on election day if no one's running. But if that doesn't happen, the office is totally vacant, and then there's an appointing body that would appoint that position to fill the vacancy. So it'd be normally the township supervisors in the case of municipalities.
So they use this as cronyism to support and to help out their donors and their buddies, and they basically give them government jobs.
Right.
And
when we get on the
ballot. And usually they're super surprised when someone slips on the ballot to muck with their plans. And what we found...
Yeah, because they were going to reward one of their buddies, and all of a sudden you took their prize away.
Right. So what we've done is the first step of the plan is I've identified all these offices, and it is county by county in Pennsylvania for local elections. So there's just not one big statewide list. I have to look at 67 different lists and do a lot of dirty work to find these opportunities. So I probably spent somewhere between 100, 150 hours just pouring over like papers to find these openings. Once I found these openings, Wes Benedict and the Libertarian Booster PAC combined that with the voter registration database. So we have 50,000 registered Libertarian voters in Pennsylvania, and we matched our registered voter list with the list of municipalities with openings, and we found Libertarians in each of those districts. And we generated a letter, and we sent them a letter. And you're a salesman, Larry, so you know how important it is to have a good sales pitch. Our pitch was you run, you win. And that's
a good pitch. I like that.
It's a really good pitch. And we eat, like, our second line was, this is not a joke, because like the first question we always get is this a joke? It seems so unbelievable, but
that's awesome.
But that's the real pitch: is you run, you win. Now it's not as simple as just saying I want to run. Like, there's some paperwork you have to go through. You have to get petition signatures. But
hold on, you said the Libertarian Booster PAC helps out. This is their, if you guys are interested, heading over to www.libertarianboosterpac.org to see what Wes Benedict, who, by the way, was a former director for Libertarian Party. So if you want to check out what he's doing, please check out libertarianboosterpac.org. So how do they help? Are they the ones who send the letter out? Like, how do they assist?
So they help with three main things. Number one, with merging the data together. So I get the list of openings, and we give them the registered voter database, and they put the two together to get our list for mail merging.
Got it.
Wes wrote the letter. Wes is a good salesman too, so he came up with this good pitch. We at the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania print out and pay for and send out the letter. The letter directs people to email or call us. That's the next place where Wes comes in, because we're a volunteer organization. We have jobs, we have other hobbies, families. But Wes was someone who said for a solid month that he's going to work. He said he would work like 18 hours a day. It works out even more than that. Basically, he says like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call me anytime, and I will walk you through this process. And he did that, and that sounds like a lot of hours, 12 hours a day, but there's another bunch of hours after that he's working on things behind the scenes, and getting our database right and entering this information.
So give me some numbers on success. Like, how many are we? Is this 5 across the state? 500 across the state? Is it 10 across the state? How many are we talking here?
Well, first, let me give you some context before we give you the numbers.
Okay.
In the National Libertarian Party, there's about 150 elected libertarians throughout the country. And previously, I think it was about 40 to 50 of those were from Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania has been on top of things before. And 2 years ago, we did the same thing, but on a smaller scale. This year, we already have, I think it's 112, maybe 113 candidates.
114 is what I've got, Chuck.
114 candidates on the ballot unopposed. So we're not saying all of those will be wins. It's still possible for Republicans and Democrats or independents to launch write-in campaigns. But what we found in practice is that even a very dedicated, enthusiastic write-in candidate with the support of the community, it's really hard to overcome the advantage of being on the ballot. So we expect to win, I would say, at least 95% of those.
Wow,
that
is amazing.
And that, Larry, is before we even ramp up our own write-in campaign, because that's Wes is helping us right now to develop the letter to shoot out to, especially some of these higher level positions like council and supervisor, mayor, school director. There's a lot of those positions out there. There's almost 2,000 of them. So we're going to shoot out letters and run a write-in campaign as well, to try to get a few more people.
Wow.
And if you look at our 2019 stats, we won about half of our elections on write-in. So, it's
amazing.
possible that we could double this number. That's very optimistic, but, we've got 114 on the ballot. I would hope that we'd hit at least 50 more on write-in.
Great.
So we fully expect after this election, even if our write-in effort is not very good, and we do expect it to be good, but even if our write-in effort is not very good, we're fairly certain that we will elect more Libertarians in Pennsylvania than the other 49 states combined.
Wow.
And
I'm like super jealous.
And we hope to elect like a lot more than that, but that's like a bare minimum. So we sent out about 16,000 letters to people who could win by default.
Did you say 16,000?
16,000. Now, bear in mind
that is a lot of letters.
That is a lot of letters. That's not 16,000 different positions, because there's many positions where there's more than one Libertarian in the area.
Sure.
I think we identified something like 3,500 opportunities, and we sent out about 16,000 letters. We got about 500 responses, and 500 people who reached out to us by phone or email and said, I want to run, tell me what to do. West Benedict got in contact with them, got them paperwork pre-filled in with their information to make it easier for them. We gave them their signature requirements and let them loose. So the reason that we think write-in campaigns will be effective too is we have at least another 100 people who wanted to get on the ballot but could not collect the signatures in time, or couldn't get the paperwork together in time, but are still enthusiastic and want to run. So even if we don't reach out to more people, even if we just reach out to like that 100 people, if we can get them to write themselves in and get a few of their friends to write themselves in, we're fairly certain that they will be winners as well.
Wow. Let me grab a couple of comments if I could. About here. Tim says there are 14 just here in York County.
Yeah,
2021 is going to be a great year.
York County, they are superstars. They got more people on the ballot than any other county. And that's another topic that is worth touching on. There's a lot of factionalism in the LP. And when it came to this I'm telling you what, when it came to this project, 99% put that aside and they worked together on this. And these candidates bridge every part of the libertarian spectrum. I can't say enough.
Which is why I love this, because I look at, and I say this all the time, I look at libertarians like the Mongol hordes, right? When there is an enemy, we all get together and we go off and fight the enemy. When there's no enemy, we just squabble amongst ourselves.
Oh, don't get me wrong. When we have
a mission, we're good. When we got a mission, we're good. And you give mission. So thank you, Jen, for giving mission. Thank you.
Don't get me wrong. There are still that half a dozen people who always have to start a fight. But you know what? Like, everybody knows who they are, and we just kept working and we got these people on the ballot. But the county level engagement is so important, because that was I was a main point of contact on this letter. The letters went out with my contact information, Wes's and Chuck's. And Wes and Chuck did the lion's share of talking to people, and I was kind of a day behind them because of my day job. So I would like clean up everybody they couldn't get to. But a big part of my job was working with the county leaders and working with the people on the ground, because in places where the county was really motivated to get people on the ballot, they got 14 on, like York or Allegheny, who got 11. There are counties that have no libertarian structure where we got a few candidates on the ballot.
Sure.
But just, the sheer magnitude of dealing with 67 counties and helping all of them understand ballot access, we actually have 139 candidates in total on the ballot. 25 of them are contested. All of those people understand ballot access now, as do the counties.
Sure.
But I'm telling you what, this stuff goes, fast and furious. We do have a big window, but it still happens very quickly. Like, we sent out those letters and they were supposed to hit mailboxes on July 9th. But instead they hit on the 4th of July weekend. And I had planned a family camping trip. So here's Wes, his phone starts going and I'm in the middle of the Poconos with like intermittent service. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yes.
So, it was a lot of work, but, and then you're getting dozens of calls a day.
Steve says, these are libertarian rock stars. We sent letters to 65 of 67 counties. That's That's really good.
It was really a lot.
So let me back up a little, because we tried to do the same thing 2 years ago, but we didn't ramp up as quickly. So I think we only sent out to like 10 or 11 counties with our on the ballot letter, and then we sent out to like a few more with our write-in letter. But we've really ramped up. We tried to hit every county, and really we could have hit all 67, except that 2 counties would not give us election results online. We would have had to like drive in person to, out to the boondocks to, to take a look at the written records, which we didn't do. Maybe we'll do that next time around. But some of the counties we had to follow up with phone calls. We had to send threatening words, give us your election results. But eventually we got that for, it's actually, so 64 out of 67 is who we sent the letter to. We didn't send the letter to Philadelphia because they had no openings in local positions. But we could have sent it for precinct offices. We decided not to do that. And then there's 2 that just didn't have election results.
All right. Jim says, I got a letter. How many states have a similar quirk as opportunities to employ the Moulton Maneuver? Is this only Pennsylvania, or are there other states that have similar, or do you not know? Or I know that's not your state. I'm just curious if you happen to know.
I know a little bit talking to Colorado, and they think that they can do it.
Kentucky thinks they can do it. So Kentucky says they have the same situation except in even years. I think Colorado, Kentucky probably have the quirk in the election law, but probably don't have as many partisan offices at the lower levels. Okay. So they'll probably be able to elect some libertarians, but not as many as Pennsylvania. There are other states that have different election law quirks that you just sort of need to know about. An example that I heard about was the state of Washington. It as early back as 2000, 2002. So all of the candidates for Libertarian, Republican, Democrat file the same time for the state of Washington. But the state of Washington would tell you who has filed if you asked them at the election office. So the Libertarians would call them up on the Friday that was the deadline in the morning and say, hey, who's filed? And then they find places where no one has filed. And then they get on the phone and they call Libertarians and say, hey, you want to run for this office? And they'd scramble to get it in the last day. That's something a lot of other states may be able to do. But the real Moulton Maneuver trick is having different deadlines between the Republicans and Democrats versus the Libertarians. And that's something that we really need to look at state by state to see if that opportunity exists.
Partisan registration is a big part of it because that's our recruitment base. You would have to find a different way to find the Libertarians if you don't have that registration list. States that allow write-in, even if the deadlines are the same, they could potentially just run write-in campaigns. I know that in Michigan, my mom recently had a township trustee that went unopposed and they appointed someone, but they don't have partisan registration. So, again, they would have to mine the data some other way to find liberty-minded people to try to find those positions. It's definitely possible, but there's,
But I think also as we grow, and I feel like we are growing tremendously, as we grow, local county affiliates will have their own lists. So even if a state doesn't have registration, the local county affiliate should have a list of Libertarians that are part of the party, at least locally, and be able to, pick up the phone or send out an email or something, or have a wait list for someone who wants, a cool state job or something. I don't know. Maybe that's something you could do in that regard. So I think that's true.
And as far back as 2005, I was taking the membership database and running it through some software tools I coded to find what their municipality were, to match it up to basically voter data, so that we could send mail merge letters to our membership database saying these are the local offices you could run for. And I coded something that works nationally. It's a little out of date, but it worked like 5 years ago. So if any software developer wants to adopt that project, that's something that can be done, for free.
There we go.
And can help that out.
Well, for you guys, if you look in the description that I put for this, you can reach out to Dr. Chuck by going to his Twitter feed if you want to. And you can check out Jenn if you want to by going to our Facebook page. I put both of those links in the description. Anybody who's interested, please reach out and they can assist you in that regard. Or just go to libertarianboosterpack.org and start bugging Wes for stuff. I mean, he's bored. He has nothing to do. So just let him do that. He's bored. It'd be just fine. So,
Larry, one of the things that I wanted to say really quickly is, how important it is to get people into these positions, because I truly believe that somebody who's been a constable is going to go on and win sheriff, and somebody who has been a mayor in one of these small towns is going to go on and win state rep. This is kind of, how we build our farm team, and,
100%.
we move up to bigger positions. So, yes, they are small, uncontested positions, but they normalize libertarians serving in government. Chuck and I are both elected libertarians, and we were both elected in 2017 using this Moulton Maneuver method, which is one of the reasons why I was so interested in helping on this project, was because, I utilized it and got elected. I'm telling you, the people in my community, they know there's a libertarian here, and they come to me for questions about everything, large and small. And many of the people who are auditors, like I am, even if they don't run again, they go on to do things like, serve on their zoning board, which is an appointed position here, but now they're making decisions about property rights. And just the sheer caliber of these people who we have recruited, they're already community leaders. They have big careers. I mean, most of them are educated. It's amazing the type of people who respond to these letters. Now, if you ask them what's taxation, they might not spout right back that it's theft. They don't understand the virtue signaling yet, because they haven't been involved in their committees and, a part of the in culture. But most of them are very good principled libertarians, and I think they're going to do great things in their communities.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's not only about the farm team, it's also about what they're doing once they're elected. We'd rather have a libertarian auditor in there than a Republican or Democrat. And we have people who have uncovered, financial shenanigans in their municipalities as an auditor. It's just better to have a libertarian in there. We also want to get people used to seeing libertarians on the ballot. So, every time they go to and vote in an election, they'll see Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and it just becomes normal to them. Like, of course, there's a Libertarian on the ballot, and that's going to help us, in even year, presidential elections too. That it's just normal to see a Libertarian there.
Absolutely. Well, Conor asked the most important question here, though. Are you worried about them finding out your plan and then, running candidates, or maybe changing the rules, or somehow trying to stop you? Wait a minute, this Moulton guy's taking over. We got to get rid of him. So they somehow change the rules and go, well, no, you can't do that anymore, or whatever is the equivalent of trying to shut you down. Is that a serious worry, or is there something that you feel, now we'll be safe for a while?
We were sort of worried about that. So far, the opposite has happened, because 2 years ago, they challenged a bunch of our candidates in court, and we won most of those challenges, and our candidates stayed on the ballot. This year, they didn't challenge anyone. So they didn't bother. They're like, you just go ahead and run your people. It's possible that they could change the law. The law's sort of always in flux, but that there may be other opportunities that we can find. I just try to utilize the system the best we can, the way it is now.
Yeah. Well, look, one thing I want to bring up here is I think there's a difference between the two major parties' leadership and the two major party people, right? The leadership is always scared of us. But I think the average Democrat Republican actually doesn't care, right? They're like, fine, Libertarians are on the ballot. They are. If they're not, they're not. I think the average one doesn't actually care either way. They're happy to have more choice or not. Is someone going to solve my problem? That's all they really care about, right? I think the average Republican Democrat doesn't care. I think the leadership cares. And if they can't focus on us, they'll focus on other things. Because the average one, they're like, whatever. I don't care. Am I wrong with that? Do you think I'm off?
Well, when I'm out petitioning, I get a lot of people saying that, it's a wasted vote or whatever. But more people sign than don't, honestly. And especially if you're the one running for office. There's a lot of this you can't win anyway inertia. Not realizing that we're the only ones on the ballot, and we will.
But even if they say you can't win, they're not against you. They just don't care.
Well, I'm telling you what, though, the other thing that I've seen, Chuck alluded to this earlier, is the fact that when a Democrat or Republican runs a write-in against a balloted Libertarian, they usually lose 60-40. And the voters recognize the fact that you put in the work to get on the ballot, I'm voting for you. That happened 3 or 4 times in our 2019 drive, and the write-in challengers did not prevail. So I think that said something.
That's amazing. Well, guys, I want you to, if you happen to be watching here or listening, please like this, comment, share this, let other people know, particularly libertarians in your world, that there are some cool things going on throughout the country. And it's not just the presidential election, it's all kind of people doing all types of things at every level of government. So, and also please check out libertarianboosterpack.org. Guys, anything you want to bring up? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I mean, we can talk about it all day, but, we got the gist of it. So, and I want to say thank you to everybody who stepped up to run and everyone who helped them get on the ballot, and, especially the people who put their differences aside to make sure that all of this worked, because I saw a lot of that through this project.
Excellent. Dr. Chuck, anything before we go?
Not really. Just to say that we'll be doing this again in 2 years, and hopefully every 2 years, as we get more and more libertarians elected, we'll be running a strong write-in campaign to get more people on the ballot in November. And like was alluded to before, there are other states where this sort of thing is possible. And I'd like to find out who those states are and help them out. So I'm going to try to help out Kentucky and any other state out there that can identify this election law quirk.
Joe says it's a great strategy. He loves it. So that's good. You got Joe on your side. I like that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you guys all